Two NFL player props here for Thursday Night Football, Thursday, October 10th, Seahawks, 49ers. Before we get started, link in the description below of the video. Hop into the premium Discord, $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. Again, this is where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. Super positive community. Everyone in the Discord just trying to help each other cash. I also want to mention I'm not a gambling expert. It's not financial advice, simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully give you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. I think we've actually hit on the last three Thursday Night Football YouTube plays here. But yeah, it should be a good game. Overall competitive division matchup. Also want to talk about daily grind fantasy, you guys. DG Fantasy. DFS Optimizer is a tool that I do use on a regular basis to lock in parlays on PrizePicks. You know, whether you're on underdog, parlay play, better picks, dabble, sleeper. The DFS Optimizer, does all the hard work for you, right? Like LaMelo Ball under 17.5 points preseason NBA is 54.78 odds to hit, right? Because it's on 16.5 on underdog. So it takes the lines from all the sports books, right? The major ones, like, Pinnacle, FanDuel, Caesars, BetMGM, BetOnline, Bovada, and then the DFS sites as well. And then it compares lines, right? And it gives you percentage odds to hit given the platform that you're currently using. Just a super resourceful tool, I think, can really increase profitability. Again, there's a link in the description below. You can get a 25% off your first month. 25% off your first month on Daily Grind Fantasy with the link in the description below of this video using promo code TUFF. So I highly recommend checking it out, you guys. Again, every single sport you can think of, like esports, EuroLeague basketball, obviously NFL football's on here as well, like Eddie Pinheiro under 1.5 field goals made, 53.57 odds to hit because it's listed at minus 135 on both Caesars and BetMGM, right? So it really does all the hard work for you. Link in the description below, promo code TUFF, 25% off your first month. But let's get into these two player props that I do like for this Thursday Night Football game. For this game all morning here, and these are kind of the takeaways on what two plays I do like. So let's get into it. The first play is going to be Kenneth Walker over 14.5 fantasy score. Now, I think right off the bat, when you look at running backs, fantasy score lines versus, that stout 49ers run defense, just defense in general, right? You think it maybe could be a little risky, but Kenneth Walker, he's been seeing a ton of work out of the backfield as a receiving back this season, which is why I think there's upside here for his fantasy score line, given this is PPR scoring. So taking a look at a few things here real quick. If we look at some other lines for Kenneth Walker, which I think is important to do, to just use correlation lines or just, context lines essentially for player props here. He's listed at 4 reception targets, right? So let's just say he gets 3. Let's say he misses his reception target line and 3. Let's say he's safe for 3 reception targets in this game, right? If you go back to his rookie season, in games where he saw at least 3 reception targets, he was over 19, 27.9, 11.9, and 13.2. We go back to last season with at least 3 reception targets, which again is a decent amount of reception targets. You can see this fantasy score line, how it correlates: 16.5, 30.6, 20.2, 30.1, 17.9, 10.7, 9.4, giving this a super safe floor, right? And then even if we look at this, he's over this line in every single game so far this season: 18.9, 33.6, and 14.6. And what's key here is this is the Detroit Lions defense, the run defense is the best in football, and he had 33.6 fantasy points against them, had 12 carries, 80 rushing yards, 4 catches for 36. Coming off a week last week, 7 catches for 57 yards. He had 12.7 PPR fantasy points just out of receiving work out of the backfield last week, which brings me to my next point here, is that after last week's game, the Seahawks lost. Offensive coordinator for the Seahawks comes out and says, we've got to get the ball to Ken Moore, and I think we had plenty of run game in the plan. Didn't have anything to do with not having calls, and I think if we get Ken 10 more, 15 more touches, things are going to look different, right? And again, if he can see those types of increase in touches, I think this just increases the floor for his fantasy score line here in this one. Considering, we go over on Outlier. There's a link in the description. You can get a 7-day free trial with Outlier. He's over 2.5, 200 minus 250 on Caesars to get 3 catches in this one, right? Going back to his, lines here. Go back to last season when he catches 3 footballs. Look at these fantasy score lines, right? Over this line in 4 of 6 games. Go back to his rookie season when he catches at least 3 footballs. 6.3, 27.9, 11.9, and 13.2. Right, and this is all without the touchdown upside that Kenneth Walker obviously does have, being the goal line back for this football team. And then we look at the 49ers. They are allowing the 7th most yards per throw to running backs out of the backfield. They're allowing the, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th most total receiving yards to running backs, because that pressure that the 49ers defense puts on the quarterback, it allows for and causes for a lot of checkdowns to those running backs. We look at running backs game log this season versus the 49ers. 3 running backs clear 14 PPR fantasy points, but we've also seen 7 different running backs clear 8 PPR fantasy points, right? Which shows me that this is a very high floor. Again, if 7 running backs have cleared 8 PPR fantasy points, let's say Kenneth Walker floor here in this game is 8 points, is very, very key. And I think there's a ton of receiving upside for Kenneth Walker in this game here. So Kenneth Walker over 14.5 PPR fantasy points is the first play. The second play I'm looking at here is going to be obviously for the 49ers, and my computer's going to lag on me here, but it's going to be George Kittle. George Kittle here in this one. I feel like we've taken George Kittle a couple times here in the YouTube videos, but I like his over 11 fantasy score here against the Seahawks, who just historically have been poor against tight ends. But we look at George Kittle in this matchup. He's currently over 3.5 receptions, minus 200, right? So heavily favored to catch 4 footballs, minus 282 on underdog, minus 210 on FanDuel. All right, so just say 4 catches is George Kittle, pretty safe bet, right? Minus 200, minus 240. Last season when he caught 4 footballs, you can see he had 10.8 fantasy points or more in every single game over this line in actually 6 of 7 games. Like I said, 4 catches for George Kittle increases this floor tremendously. You should pretty much go back to every season of his career, right? When he's had at least 4 catches, the floor for this line is extremely high, and the hit rate is extremely high, because he does have, again, that touchdown upside, elite touchdown upside in the red zone. Going back to 2021, which may have been his best season, in games where he caught 4 footballs over this line, I believe, probably in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks like 8 of 11 games over this line when he catches 4 footballs, and you can go on and kind of look at every single season. But specifically against the Seattle Seahawks, George Kittle has performed well and had one of his best games of his career against Seattle at Seattle. 25.3 at Seattle, and then last year 4.9 and 16.6 PPR fantasy points. I mean, just kind of comparing what George Kittle would have to do essentially to clear this line, like 13 PPR fantasy points, 6 catches for 70 yards. Obviously the touchdown upside is there. He hasn't faced too many elite tight ends this season, but 7.73 yards per throw to the tight end position. If we do look at those specific tight ends that have faced the Seahawks, we saw Hunter Henry at 18.9. Theo Johnson last week, which is not even a household name, he had 9.8 PPR, and then Sam Laporta had 9.3. Right, so, but Hunter Henry saw 12 targets, 8 catches for 109 yards, 18.9 PPR fantasy points. I like George Kittle. He played 1 game, so 3 or 4 games this season. 3 or 4 starts. He's over this line. 1 miss, finishing with 8 people. I like this spot here a lot for George Kittle. Hopefully this game does remain close. Again, check out all the links in the description below. Please drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.